All right, welcome to the warm-up. This is Week 11 edition, regular season coming to an end this week, so we're going to preview games that are either district championships or need to win to get into the show. It's some of these teams, Jeff, as you know, they're playing their playoffs now. They're playing in Week 11, right?
Yeah, you hear a lot of teams talk about that. You know, you get to the end of the season, the regular season, and teams are like, we're already in the playoffs, and it makes sense because they've got to win.
All right, well, let's start off in the lineup because we have an interesting situation in 24-6A between Dickinson and Deer Park. Poor Deer Park. Boy, they're going to have to talk to UIL about working their schedule out and working their alignment up because, check it, if they lose to Dickinson this week, not only did they play our second-ranked team, Dickinson, they'll play our third-ranked team, North Shore, in the next round. They're going to end their season playing two of the toughest teams out there. But can they beat Dickinson? You tell me.
Well, you know, Dickinson, who began the season with impressive wins over Katy, C.E. King, and Cy-Fair, and boy, don't all three of those wins look really good right now. They've been rolling through district play, which we kind of expected. I mean, the 51-17 win over Clear Falls shocked me. I don't know about you, Ward, but I didn't see that one coming, at least not that kind of score. And it was 14-10 Gators after one quarter, and then Dickinson just took it over in all three phases. In fact, quarterback Lorenzo Aguirre threw for 216 yards and 4 touchdowns in that game as the Gators outscored Clear Falls 28-0 in the second quarter. They were up 42-10 at the locker room and never looked back. You know, and a lot of this is happening without Malachi Gamble, who's been nursing injuries at running back. So enter in Tavin Gomez, who's filled in nicely, had 124 yards rushing in that game. Dickinson is averaging 54 points per contest this season, but they're not just an offensive team. They're definitely a defensive team as well. And keep this in mind, Dickinson won this game 41-13 last year, and the Deer are entering the game following a 14-13 loss to Clear Springs. That was a bit of a shocker too. Maybe Deer Park was looking ahead. But it was not only the lowest output scoring for Deer Park this season, but it was their first district loss, so they're 5-1. The Deer are 6-3 overall. They need to beat Dickinson to avoid a possible three-way tie for second at 5-2. Clear Falls, I think they'll beat Clear Lake Thursday night, while Clear Springs should beat Clear Creek. And they are 3-6, by the way, Clear Creek. So it's interesting how it shakes out. Should Dickinson beat Deer Park, which we kind of expect that to happen, they'll be the high seed and they get to play at Atascocita. Not fair. Not fair.
That's the way it works, huh?
I know. And then Clear Falls, you know, they would be the high seed in D2, likely playing Summer Creek at Challenger Stadium. Again, not fair. But that brings us to our next game. Why doesn't it? Summer Creek and North Shore.
Yeah, North Shore and Summer Creek. Boy, North Shore was on a complete and total roll after losing to South Oak Cliff. They're putting 70, 50, 60 every single week. Yep. And Summer Creek, I mean, they kind of, I don't want to say they fell off our radar, but when they lost to C.E. King, we're like, oh, well. But this is a chance for them to make it a three-way tie for the district title.
Yeah, I think so. The Summer Creek Bulldogs are coming off 3 straight wins over some quality opponents, including just recently over Humble and Kingwood. They're kicking it into high gear right now, which, of course, North Shore has been doing that for a while. That's the big problem. Summer Creek has never beaten North Shore. Think about that for a second. Yeah, the Bulldogs are 0-8 against the Mustangs, dating back to November of 2016. Summer Creek's best chance to end that streak is for quarterback Noah Spinks to simply just catch on fire. You know him well. He transferred from your area. They expect him to have a great game. He's going to need to have a spectacular game if they're going to want to win this one against North Shore. Of course, he has so many weapons to throw to. Benny Easter, 6'3", 193 pounds. Definitely makes plays all over. Had 3 touchdown catches against Atascocita. That was the game Spinks threw for over 500 yards. So, yeah. And Easter, who is closing in on 1,000 yards receiving, is definitely the main target. But Jamaica Jones has done great. 124 yards receiving and 2 touchdowns against Kingwood. Trey Brown, Holden Miller, they're all studs. So, and the thing about Spinks I really like, he's very accurate. 244 yards passing and 3 touchdowns against Kingwood. Most notably, 73% completion rate. So that's good. And their special teams was great, highlighted by Trenton Thomas's punt return for a touchdown. And Braylon Causey gets it done on the ground. He's such a big threat, along with Sean Jackson when they need that powerful running attack down low, maybe inside the 5. So they're balanced. Their defense has 6 sacks last week against Kingwood, including P.J. Cormier and also Brenlin Tito. They bring the wood. They had 4 of those sacks, but they're going to need that pass rush against North Shore is what I'm getting at. The Mustangs are coming off a 42-27 win over C.E. King. That's a big win. I mean, that was a huge victory. Ezekiah Johnson, he's rushed for 187 yards and 3 touchdowns on just 14 carries. Yeah, 14 carries. That's a heck of an average. But Caleb Maryland, he's the stud. He's the quarterback, and he can run too. 73 yards rushing and a touchdown versus King. He's thrown 27 TD passes with only 3 picks. That's another amazing stat right there. And he averages about 264 passing per game. As a team, North Shore had over 500 yards rushing versus King. I mean, man, think about that. I mean, I thought, that's mind-boggling. That's actually a crazy stat. But they've rushed for at least 165 yards in 7 straight games. North Shore beat Summer Creek last year. You might remember 35-10. So, you know what? If you want to get into the playoff scenario, it's crazy in this district too. But the bottom line is you got to win right now. This is a time to win.
Yeah, you want to get rolling here. But I do think that 23-6A, at least 3 of the 4 teams we should be seeing in regional finals, which means 4 rounds deep. Because the Atascocita can't seem to play any kind of defense, I'm having them as the odd team out, especially if they get Dickinson. That might be a loss right there.
Yeah.
Let's go to another district title down at 12-4A Division 1. New school, Crawford, just doing great things. You told us about Alvin Mobley last week, and he gets to show his stuff off Saturday afternoon against Navasota for the district title.
I mean, if you don't know about Crawford, they're in that Almeda, Fort Bend / Rosharon area, kind of southeast, 8-1, 4-0 in 12-4A Division 1. Navasota 7-2, 3-1 in district. Now, the Rattlers have outscored their opponents 397-221, so they can score. They've been a little bit slow starting compared to Crawford anyway. They're going to need to start faster. The Rattlers of Navasota had a tough loss against Sealy early on. Then they rattled off 5 straight wins, had the tough 47-38 loss to Stafford. And that was respectable. But if you look at the common teams here, Crawford beat Stafford pretty convincingly. So back-to-back wins over Willow Ridge and Brazosport has Navasota thinking, okay, we're back on track. But whether or not they're ready to take on a good Crawford team remains to be seen, especially with a district title on the line. Crawford is I mentioned that Rosharon area, a lot of stud athletes down there. They're balanced, 171 yards per game on the ground, 238 through the air, way over 400 yards per game total. They get it done with their quarterback, Braylon Fisher. He's a stud, averaging about 261 yards passing per game. And we mentioned Alvin Mosley. He can get it done. Dedrick Holt gets it done on the ground. So they've got some weapons there, but they're such a new school. We'll kind of see how things play out. Navasota is kind of the old dog in this district.
Yeah, I can't stop thinking about Mobley. He's just a superior athlete in all facets of the game. That's going to be at Hall Stadium, and make sure you check that thing out. I actually expect Crawford to go a couple, 2-3 rounds in the playoffs.
Me too.
Regardless. All right, I got a chance to talk to one of my favorite coaches in the Houston area, John Snelson over at Dickinson, and we talked about this game coming up against Deer Park in our Media Day segment.
The Houston area Chevy dealers. Visit your nearest Chevy dealer to test drive our award-winning products. Serving up the best treats and eats in Texas. Stop by DQ and treat yourself before and after the game.
That's right. Dickinson head coach John Snelson joins us here on a Sunday, and they're working. This is what happens when you're 9-0, coach. You're 0-9. You don't need to come in on Sunday. What can you do after that? But 9-0, you guys are playing really great football, and I talk about this in 24-6A the last 2 years. Man, they really stacked the bottom half of that schedule, don't they? They put the real test there at the bottom, and you got yourself a heck of a test against Deer Park to get that title just for yourself.
Yes, sir. Yeah, it's just kind of how that it worked out at realignment. But we're really looking forward to it.
You guys have been playing so well. Talk to me. I really want to talk about your quarterback. Talk to me about Lorenzo and how he's kind of handled this is his second year as a starter, right? And how he's kind of handled this deal.
Yeah. First year as the outright guy. Last year we had a senior, Josh Arthur, who Lorenzo and him battled all spring and summer, and we really wanted one of them to win the dang job, but both of them were just playing so well that we actually alternated them all year, just every 2 series. And most people can't do that because those kids people won't let that happen. They'll just the animosity, the selfishness, jealousy will creep in. But those kids did an outstanding job last year of supporting each other and being there for each other. And we actually pulled Lorenzo up as a freshman, and he actually got some time there too. But man, he's hey, and that kid's the real deal. He is really, really good.
And I like how you said that those kids, people. I can read between the lines because we have so many people in Texas that are like, all right, I got to compete for this job? No, that's all right. I'm going to go to this school. I'm going to go to that school. They bounce everywhere. That says a lot about Lorenzo being able to stick it out, compete for his job. You guys, I mean, you scored 70 twice. You scored 50 3 times. I can talk about your offense all day, but it's the defense I want to talk about. The way you guys are shutting teams down, 3 touchdowns or less, every team on your schedule except for C.E. King, and I don't know a team that can stop C.E. King from scoring 30 or 40 points. Talk to me about how your defense is playing, because you're going to need that, and we're going to get into that in a second when you go into the postseason.
You bet. We've got a dominant D-line, and everything begins with your line of scrimmage, and linebackers are really, really playing well, and we've got a really athletic veteran secondary. And so we're just really, really pleased. We're actually clicking in all 3 phases right now, and proud of our kids.
Yeah, it's kind of wild, and I'll leave it with this because a lot of times you have a coach and you're like, hey, congratulations, coach, you made the postseason, man. Let's kind of ease our way into it and see how far you ain't easing into nothing when you have 23-6A over there. I mean, already it's either North Shore or Atascocita, depending on who you're playing, how this game goes this week. Talk to me about that, just knowing that 11th game is not a thing you can ease into. You got to have your best playing your best ball right there.
Sure. Region 3, 6A Division 1 now. That's as good as it gets, and we actually like it that way. Man, we think that we're one of the best programs around, and when you do that, you're not going to duck anybody, and we're going to have to play them sooner or later. So when we play them is really kind of irrelevant. So we just got to keep focusing on us and getting better every week, and just see what happens.
I love that. I love that attitude, Coach. That's exactly what I wish the rest of the players could hear that, because that's exactly what you want to hear out of your head coach. And the other coaches like y'all too, because they got you ranked number 2 in the Houston area there. So everybody's throwing their flowers at you. You gather them up, put them to the side, and keep on pushing, Coach. I appreciate you joining me today.
I appreciate you, brother.
The Houston area Chevy dealers. Visit your nearest Chevy dealer to test drive our award-winning products. Parker University. Check out our bachelor's degree in strength and human performance today.
The warm-up is brought to you by Kinder's Texas Bowl. The Big 12 and SEC face off at NRG Stadium on December 27th. Join the waitlist for tickets at kinderstexasbowl.com.
Yeah, Coach Snelson's a great guy, and that talks about the district titles we did in the first part. Now we're talking about teams that got to win to get in. It's playoff fever right now. We talk about this stuff in the agenda, and we're going to start off in 16-6A, which the top 3 seem pretty set with Bridgeland, Cy Ranch, and Waller. Having Waller beaten an 0-9 team, I think that's we can go ahead and pencil that one in. It's going to come down to 3 teams fighting for that last spot, and 2 of them play each other. So Cy Lakes against Cy Springs, you're going to break it down because Cy Lakes is looking to get to the playoffs for the first time in school history.
Yeah, Cy Lakes, Cy Springs, both 3-3 in districts. Cy Lakes is coming off a huge win over Langham Creek, 33-23. So they have that tiebreaker against the Lobos. Now they need to finish the deal against Cy Springs. For Cy Lakes, led by receiver C.J. Lewis, 87 yards receiving per game, 11 touchdown catches. And Theodis Fields, he's the big threat on the ground, over 100 yards rushing. I think he's one of the big reasons why Lakes is in the mix right now. Cy Springs, on the other hand, Harris Melvin Jr., come on. He leads the team in rushing, receiving, touchdowns with 17. You got to stop him. We've talked about it week after week. He gets in that wildcat. He'll even play a little defense every now and then. They're coming off a 52-21 loss to Waller, though, which kind of was a shocker to me. So they are in need of a win against Cy Lakes, whom they are tied with in District 16, 6A. I think Cy Springs has the most points scored out of these teams that I mentioned with 334, so they can definitely score. But the whole game plan here, if you're Cy Lakes, is you got to stop Harris Melvin Jr. If you can do that, you can beat Springs.
And he's a little beat up. He's been
taking
good
point.
Some licks. Cy Lakes gets the win, they're in. Cy Springs, they need help. They got to get a win, and they have to have Langham Creek lose to Cy Ranch, which you don't know if Cy Ranch is playing for anything anymore. They locked up the one spot. They have absolutely nothing to play for. So who knows? So if Cy Springs wins, I got to hope Langham Creek also loses. Otherwise, Langham Creek goes. So any of those three teams could make it at this point. All right, let's move on to a true win in your end game. The last spot in 22-6A, Pasadena Dobie against Manville. Whoever wins gets in it, and it kind of jacks up all the Division I, Division II things. If Dobie goes in it, then Dawson drops to 2. Manville makes it, then Dobie's up, or then Dawson's up in Division I. So that's just some playoff talk. You tell me who's going to win this thing.
Well, I thought Dobie was left for dead. They've won 3 in a row over South Houston, Sam Rayburn, and Alvin. All convincing wins. Now they need to kind of pull it all in together and figure out a way to beat Manville. The Longhorns will need a win this week to reach the postseason, but they are 3-1 on the road. This game is at Manville. Beautiful stadium over there. This is an interesting matchup. Manville, they've scored 381 points while allowing 205 this season. But last week's 38-31 win over Pearland Dawson kind of caught me off guard. That was a great win for the Mavericks, who were led by Kenneth Malone Hayes, who had 3 touchdowns, including the game winner for the Mavs against Dawson. And, there's Eric Mosley III, who's been a ground threat. He's been a little banged up, 80 yards rushing per game. Carter St. Junius, he's the receiving threat, 57 yards receiving per game. And it all starts with Cam Renfro. He's got 8 touchdown passes. So Manville, I feel like they're in familiar territory around that 3-4 spot. Dobie, put a good practice together this week and see what happens.
You might remember this from last year. Dobie played Manville in the last game of the season.
Yeah.
Dobie needed to beat Manville by 15 points. Now, 18 points. The announcers did not know that. So the announcers see the game. They're up 14 points. Dobie threw a Hail Mary at the end of the game, completed it. And the announcers are trashing him. They're telling him, oh, this is classless. How could you do this? But then they see the whole team bum rush the field, and they realize, oh, well, maybe we should have done a little bit more research before we pass judgment. And that's how Dobie made the playoffs last year. And Manville has that loss on their head, thinking about, okay, I don't want that to happen again. So
yeah, no doubt.
All right, let's move back up to 15-6A with Klein Oak taking on Tomball Memorial. The game may not be super close, but Klein Oak, I wanted to talk more about Klein Oak just because you mentioned Dobie come up from the dead, rise from the dead. Klein Oak took some losses earlier, and it looked like the way Klein High School was playing the Bearcats that the Klein Oak was going to be out. Well, Klein Oak beat Klein. They took a 1-point win over Collins as well. And now all of a sudden they just need to beat Tomball Memorial, and they win and they're going to the playoffs.
I know, and Klein Oak, 61 points. I get it. Everyone's scoring a lot of points against Klein, but just a thriller. 61-54 final, just a huge win, total playoff implications. And remember, they beat Magnolia West the week before, 35-6, plus they had the shocking win over Klein Collins, 36-35. Who would have thought, right? And now that is playing out to be the big reason why we're even talking about Klein Oak as possibly a playoff contender. They've had their moments, but they are 5-4. They're 4-3 in district for a reason, because they're inconsistent. And I tell you what, Klein at 4-3, they've got a tough task. Klein does with 8-1 Magnolia, while 3-4 Kane has a winnable game against Magnolia West, who is just 1-6. So these three teams are all looking at ways to get into the postseason. I think Klein Oak's got the best chance in playing a Tomball Memorial team that is 1-6. But the thing about Memorial you need to know, they've got a good offense. They 199 yards rushing per game, led by Adrian Hattenberger with about 80 on the ground per contest. And Jackson Robertson, the quarterback, 271 yards passing per game. His big target is Gavin Westerberg. He's the main receiving threat, but 158 yards receiving. That's amazing per game. But so they can get it done. They can sometimes put this offensive juggernaut on the field, but their defense has had a lot of problems. So we'll see. Are they going to try to outscore Klein Oak? Hey, we just had a 61-54 game with Klein Oak and Klein. I could see this being a really high-scoring game. You get a few breaks either way. Who knows?
Well, I will say one thing. They let your boys from Klein Forest, who have not been scoring a bunch of points, put up 67 on them against Tomball Memorial. So it makes me a little nervous there. But everything's going to hash out. We're going to figure out who's in the postseason next week. We'll be back on the warm-up next week talking about postseason action. It always comes too quick, but now that it's here, we're going to talk about the best matchups. I have a feeling we're going to be talking about Atascocita and Dickinson for sure. Dickinson going to get them at home, which would be an awesome thing if they could handle Deer Park. But we're going to leave this episode running with the coaches' rankings. One more week of the coaches' rankings this week and next. Find out who's moved up, who moved down. Jeff told us about the Manville beating Pearland Dawson, so Pearland Dawson had to say bye-bye to the top 20. They're out of there. We'll see who's in there as we roll the clip, and we're headed to next week.